Sam, and I'm coming to you from the waterfall at the Temple of Sinawava in Zion National Park. Today I'm going to be talking to you about how Zion's geologic processes has created a robust watershed in the most unlikely place, a desert. The waterfall behind me is a part of the process. Let's go to the very beginning. I am standing in a desert. Desert plants like yucca, cactus are adapted to preserve water in these hot, dry climates. Deserts get very little rainfall, so plants and animals must adapt to survive. However, Zion has a secret. Within these towering canyon walls lies water. From the very beginning, people sought this place, a sanctuary in the driest reaches of the desert, because it offered the opportunity for life in the form of water. Like plants and animals, humans need basic resources like shelter, water, and food to survive. Water has always been thought of as a renewable resource, meaning that it can replenish itself at the same rate at which it's being used. The availability of water in a system is far more complex. What would happen if water became a non-renewable resource? What would happen if we drained it faster than it could replenish itself? Water covers 71% of Earth's surface. About 97% of Earth's water is in the ocean, and most fresh water is contained in glaciers or underground aquifers. But how does it get there? Water is constantly moving and can exist in different physical states: solid, liquid, and gas. Water travels in these states by evaporating, condensing into clouds, raining or snowing, and eventually draining back into the oceans. This process is known as the water cycle. The movement of water is greatly influenced by the contours of land and geologic features, as well as driving factors of energy from the sun and gravity. Here in Zion, the cliffs and the rainwater work together in a very special way to not only carve Zion's canyons, but to create an area that drains and transports water from one body of water to the next. This is called a watershed. If you look around, you might notice something that seems out of the ordinary in a desert. If you look closely, you'll notice there's plants growing on the side of the canyon wall. Here in Zion, we call these hanging gardens. But how do you think plants can survive off the side of a rocky wall? The secret to hanging gardens is in the rock. Try to picture Zion hundreds of millions of years ago. There were no high cliff walls, only particles of sand that traveled from other faraway mountains. Over time, these sand particles collected, forming massive dunes. Eventually, the sand at the bottom of the dunes became hardened with pressure and a lot of time. After more time passed, more hardened layers formed, and tectonic plates began to move and push the hardened layers, uplifting them into the Colorado Plateau. But weathering from rain, the river, and wind broke down the rock, while the river eroded and carried the pieces away, helping to shape and carve the canyon. Zion has 9 exposed rock layers, but today we're only going to be talking about the 2 behind me, the Navajo Sandstone layer and the Kayenta Formation. The Navajo Sandstone layer is going to be the higher section of the cliff. Below it, the thinner dark brown section is going to be the Kayenta Formation. The Navajo Sandstone is made up of sand particles that have been lithified or pushed together with pressure and time. The space between the sand particles makes the Navajo Sandstone very porous, meaning they have space in which liquid can pass through and into. The Kayenta Formation is the rock layer below. This layer is made of mudstone, siltstone, and pink sandstone, so the particles are very close together and don't allow liquid to pass through, making it an impermeable layer. This process helps shape the canyon we know today. When it rains or snows in Zion, where do you think the water goes? How do you think water interacts with the rock layers? I'm going to use a model to show you how water interacts with the rock layers. In this demonstration, we're going to use this jar to represent the beautiful rocks that make up Zion Canyon. In this jar, we have 2 different layers. The first layer is going to be a layer of marbles. The marbles inside will represent the Navajo Sandstone layer, because there's a lot of space within this layer. For the layer below, we will use clay to represent the Kayenta Formation, because there isn't much space in this layer. Next, I'm going to pour some water on our Zion Canyon to represent when it precipitates, when it rains or snows or sleets here. We saw that when it precipitated, gravity pulled the water down and it worked its way through the Navajo sandstone marble layer. But once the rainwater hit the Kayenta Formation, the clay layer, it could no longer keep traveling down as easily. The water then pools and overflows, coming out the side. Let's go check out some examples of this in the park. This is an example of the water working its way through the rock layers in the canyon wall and coming out the cracks. If we were to follow this water into the canyon wall, it would lead us to a pocket of water known as an aquifer. The water levels in an aquifer can change depending on the amount of snow or rain we receive. A spring is the result of an aquifer being filled to the point that water overflows onto the land's surface. Water can also travel through the rock into the ground and then bubble to the surface, creating small wetland areas like the one behind me. Here in Zion, we call these seeps. The rain and snow that falls from the sky will have a long journey ahead. When it precipitates, gravity pulls the water down. The water will infiltrate through the rock layers in the canyon walls, eventually going deep into the ground. With the help of gravity, some of the water will accumulate together and go into the rivers and oceans. Here in Zion, the water will make its way to the streams and the creeks connecting to the Virgin River. These are known as tributaries of the Virgin River. Some of the water's journey will end when the energy from the sun heats the water, evaporating it, sending it back into the atmosphere. Some of the water will go through condensation, joining together as water vapor molecules and heading back into the clouds. Water that lands on the road through Zion will run off and find its way back into the cycle. Some of the water will give life to the plants in Zion through transpiration, making its way through their roots, out their leaves, and back into the atmosphere. Much of the water in Zion will find its way into Lake Mead or even the Colorado River, or maybe even your faucet at home. The connection that occurs here in Zion between the canyon walls and the water cycle is an incredible process that helps create a robust watershed in the most unlikely place, the desert. The water in this canyon is a precious natural resource that offered an opportunity for life for people thousands of years ago. Till this day, it still offers an opportunity for life for many people who live around the park and depend on water from the Virgin River. If we can understand these incredible processes and why they are so important to us, then we can work together to preserve and protect these resources. Until next time.